GT Countdown.
I need to charge my ring.
After spending some time with the anti-heroes from Injustice, the office conversation gravitated from how fast can Hawkgirl really fly to what other video game franchises are due for a throwdown. Persona 4 Arena proved that any series has the potential to not only make a good fighter, but potentially the best fighter of its year. We put this theory to the test with the following 10 brand names that have either never stepped into the arena or didn't get a chance to host a proper tournament. The key is having enough characters to fill a roster, enough variety to warrant a balanced system, and the ever-present urge by everyone to punch each other in the face.
Oh, so you've played Super Smash Bros. Melee before?
Top 10 franchises that need fighting games. Number 10.
Just in the nick of time, Mickey.
Disney Extended Universe.
The Disney brand encompasses a whole lot nowadays, from comic book superheroes to galaxies far, far away. But we think a fighting game featuring characters from the Disney animated films and television shows could provide enough diversity that'd be ripe for tweaking, balancing, and polishing into a 2D fighter. And who better to do just that than Capcom with the recent HD resurrections of their own Disney side-scrolling platformers, combined with their already deep roots in the fighting game genre. While it's admittedly a hard sell to the corporate heads at Disney in allowing these childhood icons to engage in a bout of fisticuffs, we think if cute and cuddly characters have a place in Super Smash Bros., there's no reason street rats, Disney princesses, and a slew of anthropomorphized characters shouldn't enjoy a friendly fray of their own.
Doesn't everybody deserve a second chance?
Number 9.
And like the cycle of the seasons, the cycle of the Avatar began anew.
Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Nickelodeon's Avatar sports some of the best fight scenes in a children's show, yet nobody has taken the effort to recreate them in the virtual ring. Air, water, earth, and firebenders would use their special abilities, and the elemental-based mechanics could support a rock-paper-scissors style system that lends itself to a team-based fighter. Throw in the cast from the latest series, The Legend of Korra, and you have the makings of a truly spectacular roster. Fans could relive memorable battles like Aang vs. Firelord Ozai or Katara and Zuko vs. Azula. Combatants wouldn't be limited to benders either, with melee specialists known as chi blockers who can temporarily disable bending abilities and quickly turn the tables. Though there are some who will want the game to stick to its 2D roots, we personally would love to see CyberConnect 2 team up with Namco Bandai and take a stab at capturing the look and feel of The Last Airbender, just like they did with Ultimate Ninja Storm.
Number 8.
Fresh air is overrated.
Star Wars.
Yes, the universe that Lucas built has already hosted 2 fighting games, but they're both forgettable. Masters of Terras Kasi holds the dubious distinction of being the only Star Wars game to let you play as a Gamorrean guard, and Clone Wars Lightsaber Duels is the pinnacle of Wii Remote unresponsiveness. So let's not pretend these are the brawlers we're looking for.
Easier than shooting womp rats back home.
The Star Wars universe has hundreds upon hundreds of characters waiting to kick some ass, and those without lightsabers have proven in the films and television shows that they can take on Jedi without falling back on Force powers. If Disney's going back to the drawing board with the license, we suggest they sketch a way for Han Solo to quick-draw General Grievous, or Wicket and Jar Jar to knock each other out of existence.
You lose.
I'd better be getting paid for this.
Number 7. Nicktoons.
If the Toons and Tots from Cartoon Network can get their hands dirty, then why not some of our most beloved childhood icons behind the big orange couch? In our minds, Nickelodeon's famous Nicktoon lineup is fair game for all sorts of wild and wacky matchups, a la Smash Brothers. SpongeBob vs. Stimpy? Rocco Cross Rocket Power? What about broadening the umbrella even further and having dynamic stages based around the Double Dare set, the Aggro Crag, and Olmec's Temple? Hell, maybe even Keenan and Kel could get into the action as special assists. Yes, we know it all sounds a tad ridiculous, but would you really not want to play it? We thought so.
Number 6. Warcraft.
If fighting games are based on a cast of otherworldly characters with big personalities, then perhaps no franchise is more ready to start throwing punches than Warcraft. Despite its roots in real-time strategy and the fact that 10 million or so players claim sole responsibility for saving Azeroth repeatedly, Warcraft is all about its heroes. Thrall, Arthas Menethil, Illidan Stormrage, King Varian Wrynn, the list of big egos goes on and on. With Warcraft's focus on commanding units, each hero could come with a partner for a tag and combo. Medivh could pull an army of orcs through the Dark Portal, and Jaina Proudmoore could summon a giant water elemental. The dragon aspects could switch into their larger forms, and massive demons like Kil'jaeden could appear as giant bosses similar to Marvel's Galactus or Master Hand from Smash Bros. It's 20 years of lore just waiting to settle the score.
I thought I smelled the stench of Alliance pigs.
Control yourself.
You want my blood? Come then, dog.
Number 5. Game of Thrones.
The Game of Thrones bubble continues to grow with no likelihood of popping anytime soon. Just as the books were successfully conveyed to the popular TV series, we believe it can thrive in yet another medium. This is not to say Game of Thrones hasn't already tried its hand in video games, but its few virtual attempts should have been left on the chopping block. What this franchise needs is a game faithful to its action, where fans can pit their favorite characters against each other in battles to the death. It's not all swords and shields in Westeros. Daenerys could call in her dragons, Melisandre could summon the Lord of Light, and Jake and Hagar could swap identities and abilities. We'd even be willing to experiment with an alternative viewpoint, possibly in tandem with chivalry medieval warfare, that would serve this hypothetical brawler more than conventional fighting game templates.
Unfortunately, we do not live in a fantasy story.
Number 4.
I really need to be getting back to Gotham City.
Marvel vs. DC.
Sure, we've been graced with Marvel vs. Capcom, and DC pulled a Garfunkel with Mortal Kombat. But like the Ghost of Christmas Future once showed The Onion, what we want is DC versus Marvel. We're approaching a franchise rivalry that's going on a century, with each side's chest-thumping claiming to have the world's mightiest heroes and most nefarious villains. While the occasional comic crossover had the sides sparring, it usually felt neutral and safe. In a fighting game, the players, with leaderboards and tournaments, could finally decide if Adamantium can cut through the Man of Steel. Capcom could handle this massive roster, easily hitting triple digits, and maybe even Image Comics could get in on the act as DLC. But hopefully not on the disc.
What sorcery is this?
Number 3.
Kept you waiting, huh?
Metal Gear.
It doesn't hurt that Snake himself has been in fighters like Smash Brothers, but with over 25 years of crazy characters, Metal Gear has a deeper well to draw from. Raiden and Gray Fox could lock swords, Fat Man could go up against the Fury, or you could expand on the Metal Gear battle from MGS4. What could be even more intriguing is if the game broke from a traditional fighting structure to reinterpret Bushido Blade with large environments that emphasize stealth, tactics, and the element of surprise. Add in some traps, decoys, and maybe even Psycho Mantis hallucinations, and we could have an all-new stab at one-on-one combat.
Number 2.
Sega hasn't unleashed its fighting spirit in quite some time, but rest assured, it's only lying dormant. In addition to a Sonic-themed fighting game, Sega actually attempted an intercompany crossover with Fighters Megamix, combining Virtua Fighter characters with faces from the lesser-known Fighting Vipers. But while the game had some interesting unlockable characters, it wasn't quite an all-star cast. If they went with the looser, more Smash Bros.-esque style, as opposed to a more serious 3D fighter, Sega could easily take a broader approach, similar to what they did with All-Stars Racing. We want characters from classics like Golden Axe, Shinobi, Altered Beast, Skies of Arcadia, and Shenmue. Maybe nab a few crazed cast members from Mad World and the Yakuza series. They could even throw an alien from Colonial Marines in there. Every fighting game can use a good joke character.
Number 1. Mascot Rejects.
In what is assuredly the biggest licensing nightmare to imagine on this list, we can't help but dream of a reason to bring our favorite lost leads back from the brink. In the era where every publisher tried to clone Mario, Sonic, and Crash Bandicoot, dozens of weird animal hybrids burst onto the scene and then disintegrated just as quickly. We imagine these unemployed mascots are pretty pissed, and if one were to set up a competition where the winner gets his or her or its own next-gen game, we imagine scales would be singed and the fur would fly. They could spout battle cries about how they just weren't understood, and use abilities befitting of their ill-fated platforming legacy. It may be the only chance we'll ever have to see Gex, Aero the Acrobat, and Earthworm Jim back in action.
Yippee!